3, 2.
I got everybody pregnant with Barry Katz and semen.
I'm not comfortable with the tone this is taking.
If you're undeniable, you will not be denied.
If you want to be successful in show business, you get yourself a Jew white manager like Barry Katz.
Being a manager is just turning no's into yeses.
Creating holy shit moments.
Undeniable.
You're fucking firing me up, Katz.
I love this man.
Is there anything else I should know?
You're on. What? Now I'm on the air.
Barry Katz, back in the house.
Let's do this.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited about this podcast. This guy I've known my whole career. Fantastic. We got great stories together. I've got great stories, and I guarantee you he has even better ones. What an honor. Aries Spears.
My guy.
Can't
What's up,
believe
brother?
it. Can't believe it.
Yeah.
When's the last time I saw you?
I think it was the Montreal Comedy Festival. Yeah.
The bankrupt Montreal Comedy Festival. It's just
Whatever.
got bought again, right?
Yeah,
Didn't it?
whatever it is now. I don't even know that it has the same cachet that it used to. I don't think it does.
Doesn't matter. It's cyclical. Everything comes around, and that's what happens.
It's a party for the industry.
That's why it's great sitting across from you, because, you know, the way the world works now, anything can happen. Anything can happen. And if you just work hard and you keep going and you keep moving and you keep getting up. I was just thinking to myself about a person who I've always loved, oftentimes quirky and misunderstood. I saw him on an episode of Kill Tony in front of, God knows, it was like someplace like Madison Square Garden or something like that. Harlan Williams just on this panel, just fucking annihilating for an audience that it could be argued was never his audience.
Yeah.
Or hasn't been his audience or whatever. And then just one thing and the world changes, even though you've headlined, you've done movies, you've done television shows. As long as you continue to be funny and work hard, the world always has an opportunity to find you again and again and again and again and again.
Well,
and it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you know, funny is money. You know, he's got the goods, man. And I think that at the end of the day, when you got the goods, you're gonna do what you're supposed to do. You know,
One of my favorite things about Harlem is, you know, everybody who gets a heckler has a different philosophy on how to do it. There's the people who ignore the heckler. There's the people who freak out and yell at the heckler. There's the people who just destroy the heckler with a comeback that's unbelievable. And then there's Harlan Williams, who when the guy heckles is just like, "Hey, little buddy, you having a tough day today?
Yeah.
We can all work together as a group through this."
Yeah,
You know? And it's like, it's just unbelievable.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, that's the beauty of what we do. I mean, you know, like I put it in boxing terms, styles make fights. So there's no wrong way or one way to handle a situation. You know, we disarm people with our comedy. So whether you're a Harlan Williams or whether you're a throat slasher like me or highly witty, whatever it is, as long as you get the job done. I have yet to see a prop comic handle a heckler with a prop. I'd like to see that be done.
That's true. You know, now that you mentioned props, I just want to say something on the side in defense of something. Believe it or not, if you were to take away Carrot Top's props and you would just listen to the original jokes that he has done, you'll realize why he's the longest running act that's ever been in Las Vegas for comedy. It's unbelievable that he continually is creating and writing. Just because it's around a prop, people freak out. But, you know, when you're on Saturday Night Live and you use a prop, you're a genius.
Yeah.
And you are a genius when you do. I mean, Lucille Ball was all about the physical comedy and the prop, and she was incredible. But I'm dating the world and myself.
I'm not far behind you.
So I have so many things to talk to you about, but a lot of things that the audience doesn't know about us.
Right.
So, and I have recollections of us, and I could be wrong because it's been a long time. But when I was in New York and things seemed to be going well, I was very lucky and fortunate that I saw something in a lot of different people, and for whatever reason, it all happened, and I'm very grateful for that and very humbled. And you were somebody who I saw when you were 15 years old, and I was like, right away was like, I said, this guy something's going to happen with this guy. And I remember meeting you, not meeting you, but coming up to you somewhere.
Yeah.
And telling you that, like, you're 15 years old. What do you know when you're 15? But you're this large Jewish man is coming up to you saying he sees the future and great things are going to happen. Is that an accurate statement of what happened? And then how? And I really was enamored with you, and I wanted to do things with you, and I wanted to help you, and I wanted to work with you. And I was working with Dave Chappelle at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember that there was some kind of story that got back to him, as people are. There's always comedians slinging all sorts of negativity all the time. If you can just avoid listening to the negativity, that's great. But I remember somebody telling him that they saw you at a place doing one of his jokes.
I might have done that. I might have done that.
And he was like so upset, and he said, this is Dave, and truly always to me one of the greatest people that I ever worked with in my life. He didn't come to me and say, ban that guy, get rid of him, throw him out, whatever. Barry, just talk to him, will you? You'll talk to him like you've talked to me, and and tell him what and just help him get through it or whatever. And I talked to you about it, and you can't do that. And the next thing I know, literally, you were like on a bus or a plane to Los Angeles. It was like the coyote. It was like you were gone, and your mom was calling me, "Where's my son? I think he took off." And what did you say to him or whatever? I'm like, I just told him, you can't do that. And
well, that had nothing to do with that. What that was at that period in time. My very first manager was. I might screw this up. I believe the girl's name, she was on the show Give Me a Break with Nell Carter, Laura Miller. Her mother was a manager, and she worked out of Pennsylvania. So she was my first manager. And
how old were you when?
Probably 13.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. So, because she was in Pennsylvania, it kind of felt like she wasn't really in the thick of things by being in New York or LA. And she was okay for me starting out, but I knew that there had to be someone more experienced, more in the know, more in the thick of things. So it just so happened that at that time, it was like I had a choice between you. After I did Def Jam, Russell Simmons was interested in me. So it was like,
how old were you when you did Def Jam?
16.
Got it.
Yeah, so it was like you, Russell Simmons, and then I got this call from Norm Nixon, Debbie Allen's husband.
Of course.
And he was like, man, I want to fly you out to LA. I want to possibly manage you, but let me at least fly you out, talk to you, let you see LA.
This is after the show aired, the Def Jam aired.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know this. Did I put you on a showcase where you got it, or were you on a showcase somewhere?
No. That my connection with Def Jam, and I always would tell people in interviews, I know Russell Simmons gets the credit because his name was on the marquee. Russell Simmons, Def Comedy Jam.
That's Bob Sumner.
But Bob Sumner was the brainchild. He was the battery. He was the muscle. So it was Bob that got me Def Comedy Jam.
And who was on your show?
It was
who hosted? Martin Lawrence?
Yes. And the funny thing is, I wanted to do it the first year, but Bob felt like I wasn't ready when he put me on the second year. But my show was me, Arnez J, Ellen Cleghorn, and I forget the other guy's name. And then, I flew out to LA. I'd never been on a plane. I'd never left Jersey. So you know, I get introduced to all this visual cocaine and all this excitement.
Tell the audience. So he flies you out there,
and I stay at his house.
He has you stay at his house with him and Debbie Allen
off near the beach in Santa Monica. Again, and I'm a kid, so I'm seeing all this for the first time. L.A., the palm trees, an expensive multi-million-dollar crib, you know. And
had Norm managed other people at the time? Or
yeah, he was managing Ken Sagos, who most notably was in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, AJ Sanders, who was on A Different World, and Carlos Mencia. So yeah, I come out to LA, and the funny thing was Debbie at the time was the showrunner director for A Different World. So I remember I went to a taping, and DL Hewley was the warm-up. And of course I had worked with DL before, so DL was like, yo, got this young man here who's very funny. Aries, come do like 5 minutes. And he was doing warm-up, Fresh Prince. And I remember I did the warm-up, and I mean, I was killing. And to the point where Will Smith was just watching me like and laughing so hard. So between all of that and the fact that there quickly became a buzz around town, yo, this hot young kid and blah, blah, blah. And Norm said I could line up meetings with NBC, ABC. So to me, the choice was obvious at that point. It was like, if you're gonna go for the dream, go for the dream. So as badly as and believe me, had that not happened, more than likely I probably would have connected with you. But again,
I don't remember that. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Then why did your mom call me and say, where's my son? Why did he go to LA? Why you didn't tell her you were at Norm Nixon's house?
No, that's what's weird, is because she knew about it. So I don't know why she told you that.
But you remember that, right?
I vaguely kind of do, but and the thing is this, and you and I have, you know, when we've seen each other, and like we were talking about before we started in Montreal, and anytime we would see each other, and there were times we saw each other in New York, it always felt like to me, and still does to this day, this is a romance that never happened, but I've always wanted to have happen. You know what I'm saying? I did the thing with Norm, and now I've been with the guy who I've been with for over 20 years. And
who are you with now for 20 years?
Jeff Chetty.
Oh yeah, Jeff. Well, I mean, 20 years. That's a good run, man. That's nice.
It is. But I'm at that point where I'm like, is it over? You know,
is what over?
The run, is it over? You know,
the marriage is over. Does he say that to you?
No, but you know when two people are infatuated with one another, the sparks are always there, and then you don't have to say it, but when you're not talking as much, or you don't do the things you used to do as much, you know, there's room for doubt. There's, you know, you start thinking things, you know.
I think the thing about management and also the agency business, and I hope nobody gets mad at me for saying this, but for most managers and most agents, there's a lot of pressure regarding your job, and especially if you're not your own boss. I told my sons from when they were young, you know, you can either be the person or work for the person. And the stress of being the person is tremendous, but at least it's you.
Yeah.
And you do your own thing and whatever. And that's what I've always loved doing. And so Jeff is working at a corporation. You know, he's got his office space that's amateurized, his phone, his FedExes, his meetings, his expenses, his travel, his salary, and it's all comes in as one number. And then you take the money, that the commissions that every client he has, and that's another number. And then you subtract them, and what's left is, you know, really what the company is making, and what you're making for the company, what you're making for yourself, how much of your salary, that your 10% is his company getting, and how much, you know, is he getting. Mm-hmm. And it'll oftentimes has to do with what his expenses are. So this is what's amazing, what people don't even think about. Do you mind if I break this down? Because I think the audience is going to love this. This is crazy just to think about it. So let's just say Aries and try not to, this isn't an indictment of what you make or what you don't make. Let's say Aries makes $1 million this year, okay? So Jeff and Brillstein Gray get $100,000, okay? Jeff has an assistant. Chances are the assistant, even if they're making minimum wage, makes about $35,000 a year. Jeff's salary, I'm not going to comment on what it is, but I would like to think that, it's somewhere in the good six figures. Okay? So already with his salary and the assistant, he's losing hundreds of thousands of dollars if he just has you. That's not the expenses. That's not the office space. That's not his travel. That's nothing. So then he's got to have other clients that do a certain amount of business. But everything is about the bottom line, and he has these meetings with, don't think for a second that every 3 months they don't bring him into a room and show him all the numbers. Hey, pal, this month this is what's happening here, and this is what you did last year, and this is the rent that's going up at our offices this year, and the insurance is going, this is what it is, and this is your share of whatever it is. And it's pressure. It's an enormous amount of pressure, so that you lean on and you keep the relationships going stronger with the ones that are going to help you take the pressure off, and the ones that it's more pressure on you is more challenging. Do you think that, I hope he doesn't kill me, do you think Rick Greenstein at Gersh, who represents Dave Chappelle, and Dave does, let's say, 5 shows at Madison Square Garden, makes $5 million, depending what the commission is at Gersh for Dave Chappelle, because who knows what it is. If it's, it wouldn't surprise anybody if it were less than 10% or whatever it is, or who cares? He's at the top of the game. But let's pretend it was. Is he going to spend as much time with somebody who's making, let's say, $5,000 a show versus somebody who's making $1 million a show and doing the same amount of work? So that's why I think marriages seem like they end or whatever. And so what Jeff Chetty, I can guarantee you the marriage will be renewed, and he'll be wearing a different negligee in the bedroom with a different hair color if you figure out a way in the next year to create something that happens that generates extraordinary revenue and buzz for him and his company.
Well, one, that's always the mission. And two, and listen, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but when I say that in the beginning, when there's fireworks to a partnership, it feels like both parties are equally hungry to pursue the brass ring. Whereas at this point, it feels like if I don't do it, it won't be done. And I'm going, well, aren't we supposed to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's always my responsibility because it's my career to carry the load. But what's the point of a manager if you're going to carry the load by yourself?
I'll tell you. You ready? I'm going to mention some names to you. You ready? Joe Rogan, Tony Hinchcliffe, Bert Kreischer. Now, if I were sitting in a room with their managers, what would they say that they did that helped them with their podcasts? And I would be a betting man and say they didn't do tremendously heavy lifting. They didn't have to. The person just went in their garage with a microphone, Mark Maron the same way or whatever, and just started doing their thing. It's like you don't need a manager. Yes, I've set up podcasts. I've helped people buy the equipment. I've helped people get guests. Yes, but at the end of the day, I can't take credit for any fuck. It's like they build their audience and they go. So Why is Tony Hinchcliffe working arenas? Is he working arenas because his manager, helped him every step of the way with the podcast? I don't know, but if I'm a betting man, I doubt it. Bert Kreischer, I know for a fact, wasn't booking jobs, wasn't booking acting jobs, just started doing it with his voice, took off. So the thing is, the world speaks. Now, the manager, after things get going, is very instrumental in helping coordinate all these different things that come about and what happens in different deals and sometimes endorsement deals and other things that come from it. But what's fascinating, if you look at it, if you look at these people, it's incredible how few acting jobs this town gives them. You'd think there'd be a line outside the door of Tony Hinchcliffe's fucking house. Like, listen, we don't care what you do. We have this role for you. Just come in. You don't have to audition. Just come in and do it. Chappelle, listen, I know you don't do much, but we have an extra $1 million. Will you do a guest set in this movie with Meryl Streep? Why? I don't, Bert, come on in, do that. Like, I don't understand the way this town thinks in terms of comedy artists and why they don't give people the shots. And then the shots that you see people get, very deserving, by the way, Pete Davidson, Amy Schumer, get shots when they're nowhere near at the level of the people I just mentioned. In terms of social media at the time, now they are.
Do you have any, like, I know you just said you don't understand this town and how certain things, but seriously, like, you have nothing in terms of what you attribute to that?
I honestly think to myself over and over again when I see movies, like, because there's always, every movie you see, like, I'll give you an example. Like, a lot of times in the past 5 or 10 years, you'll see a movie and there'll be a great Asian actor, a popular Asian actor in the movie. And one of the reasons why they're in the movie is because they're a great actor. Number 2, diversity. Number 3 is because they want the worldwide audience, and there's a huge worldwide Asian audience. But there's a huge comedy audience too, and you'd think, like, the 5th lead, the 6th lead, the 7th lead, you can't throw somebody something that can just be who's going to be funny in the. So I'm always confused by that. Like, if I owned my own studio, I would probably create this, hopefully get this fund, maybe a $10 million fund that was just like, okay, we're spending $2 million for 5 films. We're going to bet on 5 comedians. Only one of them has to be successful. The rest could tank. Just give me one that's successful. And I'd give them $1 million to write it and star in it. And then I'd use the $1 million to do a low budget independent movie around it. And I can't imagine that it wouldn't work. But going back to what you were saying, and I'm talking too much, I'm sorry, is that you think that the manager relationship with the artist, it should be symbiotic, and you're still in a don't jump over the chair and kill me. But you're in a dream world. It's like it's a new world for artists, and, and ever since Dane Cook built his following on social media and pressed a button to sell out Madison Square Garden twice and Boston Garden twice, the world has changed. Didn't need an agent. Didn't need a promoter.
Oh, no, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I know at the end of the day, I would say 90% of it is your responsibility. But again, I'm just going, and maybe you already said it, but I'm just going, well, if the manager's not going to do anything until the obvious happens, what is the point of the manager? Like, shouldn't it be at least 10% that you assist in some way?
Well, you just said that. It's really fascinating. I always look at the manager as like I'm like the cabinet. The artist is the president. And I certainly, even though I make 10% of what the artist makes, I certainly know that I do more than 10%. I want to do more than 10%. I want to be more valuable than 10%. You have to add that kind of value to it. So before you said 90% the artist and 10% yeah. If I'm a manager and I'm really doing 10% of the work, then I feel really shitty because I spend a lot of time and effort, and I'm really like, I'm always, it's odd saying this, but I've always been proud of the fact that so many times I've seen something in somebody and I believed in somebody and I worked hard for them, and with their talent and mine, extraordinary things happened. And that's always something that no one can take away from me.
But that to me is a key thing. Their talent and mine. So, when two people come together, like in anything, when two heads are better than one, it takes a village. If you combine powers, in more the merrier.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I totally get it that at the end of the day, again, it's my career, therefore my responsibility, therefore I do the bulk of the work. And yeah, you're right. I know the landscape has changed.
How have you changed with the landscape? How has Aries Spears changed, and what is Aries Spears giving Jeff Chetty to help him win?
Well, I mean, I remember you and I had a conversation. We had met up for lunch somewhere.
I remember what I told you. Am I allowed to say it?
Well, before you say it, let me see if I might beat you to it. You had basically made this diagram where it was like you should have several different avenues of income and opportunity created for yourself. And you mentioned the podcast. You mentioned this. You mentioned that. Now, back then, I didn't have a podcast.
I mentioned that you have, I know. I mentioned that you have 8 cylinders at least in your engine.
Right.
And I said, you're only operating on one right now.
Right.
You're a car driving on one cylinder. Now, also, I want to say, how many managers sit down with an artist like you who has another manager and tells them, talk to your manager, as opposed to saying, hey, let's f that guy, let's whatever. It's like, listen, I have respect for the craft. I have respect for the business. Yeah. Look, I've been fired more than I've probably been hired, but there's always somebody that comes around that I can work with again, and huge things happen, and it's happening. It continues to happen to me, so I'm never worried about it.
Yeah, listen, that's, again, I'd be lying if I sat here and acted as though, for lack of better words, I haven't fantasized about what if, what could have been, what possibly could still be. It's like if I see this one broad who I went, man, back in the day, I wanted to get with her, but fate it wasn't meant to be. And then I met this other chick who became my wife, but I've always wanted to f that girl. It was like, I've always wanted to f you, Barry.
Well, I think this is important. I think this is important for the audience. Because how many comedians?
No Diddy.
How many comedians at 15 or 16, since we've been in the business, let's just say a teenager, how many have come around and made a monstrous impact as a teenager? I mean, and I've been fortunate because I've been involved with a lot of them. Chappelle, Jay Moore, 2 huge ones as teenagers did really well.
Yeah.
How many other people as teenagers, I'm talking teen, not 20, whatever, broke through and either got on television as a comedian or whatever? How many do you know?
I mean, other than the ones you named, that's it.
I mean, I'm sure I'm missing somebody.
Yeah.
Elon Gold did some television when he was a teenager, but it's very rare. So you start off, you're doing everything right. You have no fear. Your mimicking abilities are unmatched, and you're not even trying. it's just a natural ability. And when you get in front of the audience, it feeds you like heroin. So when you go on, you'd always kill. And when you're a young person, the expectations are lower. So if you were doing what you were doing and you were 40 coming into the clubs, a lot of people wouldn't have cared as much, you know, like Rob Magnotti, let's say, you know, somebody just a little older,
Right.
great impressions, but you're not a fresh teenager. This is amazing. So Norm flies you out. He works with you. What goes off the rails for you?
With Norm?
Where you feel like he's not the guy anymore?
You know, because Norm came from, you know, and God bless him, he was more of a father figure to me. He was more of a better father figure to me than a manager. But, you know, in this game, you got to get your hands dirty. You know, you got to be willing to be told no and find ways around that and not just give up. And I think that because Norm came from the sports world, his mindset was different. You know, it's like, I'm an athlete. I pretty much, you know, nobody's really telling me no that much. And, you know, the grind of being a professional athlete is very different from the grind of being a manager or being in the entertainment business. And when I felt like at times when he was told no or certain doors were slammed in his face, that's it. Like I was like, where's the fight? Where's you know?
I always say you got to turn the nose in the yeses, but I thought that there were a couple of good things that happened under Norm.
Well, no, listen. When I first,
so what opportunities got converted under Norm?
Well, when I first got to town, again, the buzz was so strong, and back then they don't do it anymore. But back then they gave you holding deals.
Yeah.
So because there was this buzz, it was like for the first 5 years of being in LA, I had a holding deal with every network. You know, and every time I had one with one network, it basically would take me off the market, trying to figure out how to develop something, and nothing ever came about.
Yeah, so what happens in a holding deal is that they give you a certain amount of money versus what you're going to make. Sometimes 50% of it is applied, sometimes the shittier deals, 100% of it is applied. So if they give you $100,000, and let's say you do a television pilot and your fee is whatever, $50,000, you don't get it. It's applied to the 100. And then if you get to do episodes at, let's say, $25,000 each, your first 2 episodes, you might get, if it's 50% applied, if 100% is applied, you don't get it. And they're always trying to create a thing where they have their writers that they have under contract meet with you and do development with you to try to create a show.
Right.
So over the course of those 5 years, Aries could have made a minimum. They're never going to give him a development deal with Norm, probably under $100,000. So it's always going to be somewhere around there. So he probably made $500,000 just on the development deals in the first 5 years, and he didn't work.
Yeah.
He didn't have to do anything.
Right. But then it so happened like, so it was like NBC, ABC, and then by my third one with CBS, I did the show South of Sunset.
South of Sunset, wow.
Yeah, with Glenn Fry.
Now that was the series where you were a lead in the show, right?
Well, he and I were both the leads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that went for 1 season.
Well, here's the thing. We shot 25 episodes, but when we premiered, we had 2 issues. 1, they put us up against Home Improvement. And 2, we aired during the California fires. So we didn't even air in California. And then we got killed by Home Improvement. But the other thing was, when they hired Glenn, and you know, I love Glenn. Glenn gave me my first basketball game I ever went to. I saw Magic at the Forum, floor seats. But guy wasn't the greatest actor. So he hired an acting coach midway through the shooting. And he got a little bit better, but he wasn't great, but he got a little bit better. But he was so pissed off because he was basically telling CBS, look, my acting was so horrible for the first half of the episodes, I want to reshoot them now that I've gotten better. And they weren't going to do that. So he got into it with the president of the network, talked to him crazy. So it was like between the fires, between Home Improvement, and then his interaction with the head of CBS, they canned us after the first episode. we were canceled after the first episode. So then cut to...
How many shows have ever been canceled after the first episode?
I don't know. But we were.
You must have been devastated.
Yeah, I was. I mean, it was an hour action drama comedy, shooting all over LA on location, one camera,
How many had you shot before it got canceled?
We were pretty much almost done.
25.
Yeah. And I mean, the money was sweet, what I was getting per week. And again, I'm a kid at this time. So I just thought the world was mine.
And so Norm's doing pretty good at that time.
Yeah. But again, this is all coming off the hype of, this kid is...
I know, but he still has to set up the meetings and do the thing.
That won't, listen.
Where does it all go wrong? What happened?
Just after a certain amount of time, it just felt like I'm going like, well, it didn't feel like that energy that was there and that passion was there to dig deeper and harder. And like you said, turn the nose into yeses. So, and I was just getting the feeling, this vibe. And around that time, I kind of started talking with Jeff Chetty a little bit. I always liked Jeff. And instinctively, it was just time. I felt like it was time for me to move on.
Got it. And what was the first thing that Jeff did that made you realize, hey, this, even though it was painful with Debbie Allen and Norm Nixon, and they probably aren't going to talk to me that much after this, because people take things too personally. Not me.
Right.
I'm friends. I like to be friends with as many people as possible.
Right.
I don't care. I have no attachment.
Right.
It's like people make choices, and my life's going to go on really well, and I'm not worried about it. So what was the first thing that he did that you were like, wow, this is how it's supposed to be now?
Well, it was kind of like once my deal with CBS was over, probably about a year went by, and that's kind of when I parted ways with Norm. But somewhere in that process, I had met with Fox originally to be on MADtv. Now, I couldn't do it because while they wanted me, I was also locked into a situation where Aaron Spelling wanted me because we did a pilot called Crosstown Traffic, which was basically like a mod squad. So he was like, listen, you committed to this pilot, so MADtv ain't gonna happen. But the president at the time of Fox and MADtv, they really wanted me. So by the time the Aaron Spelling thing was over, I didn't even have to audition for MADtv again. They just was like, well, he's already here on Fox, so just put him on MADtv. And Jeff kind of helped to facilitate that, and I was on MADtv for 8 years.
Oh, pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, it's Barry Katz, and I wanted to talk to you about Blueprint for Success. This is a community that I put together during the pandemic to help all artists of every walk of life in the entertainment business. No matter where you are in that part of this journey, it's designed to help you. There are podcasts with people that will inspire you, like Kevin Hart, Judd Apatow, Bill Burr, that you can't find anywhere else but on this program that I've interviewed, to times where we get to talk to executives in the business that you would never have access to tell you what you need to hear and to answer your questions, to all sorts of different videos and master classes designed to help you get to the promised land. That's what the Blueprint for Success is. Doesn't matter whether you want to be a stand-up comedian, a sketch performer, a podcaster, an actor, an actress, director, writer, social media person, whatever you want to be. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've had the honor and been humbled to represent people like Chappelle, Wanda Sykes, Louis C.K., Dane Cook, and probably over 20 other people who went from a studio apartment to being a multi-millionaire and a household name. And I want that for you, and I wanted to take the time with this program to be able to help you on your way there, to get there and to heighten and increase the trajectory of your career. Blueprint for Success is the way to go. I'm proud to be a part of this program, and I'd be proud to have you to be a part of it too.
all your moments on MADtv are drowning in the ocean. You can only say one story, your highlight chapter story from 8 years on the show. What is it?
It's hard to say, you know. I don't want to feel like I'm letting you down, but I remember Jeff once told me, because when I first started doing Mad, I kind of felt like for the first year or two, nobody was really watching or noticing me. And I remember Jeff was like, never underestimate the power of television. So around my third season is when things started kind of clicking. And I've always been grateful to the show because, I mean, obviously it made me more famous then than I was before that. And it helped open some doors to kind of where I am now. But if I'm being honest, my dream was always Saturday Night Live. It was always, I wanted to go the Eddie Murphy route, do it for 2 years, do a movie, have that hit, and the rest is history. And I kind of always felt like, because I never did Saturday Night Live, and again, I'm not trying to shit on MADtv because, you know, it brought me to where I am today, but I kind of felt like it's the difference between playing in the CBA and the NBA. You know, I'm grateful for it, but it ain't the NBA. It ain't Saturday Night Live. And I just always felt like if I had ever done Saturday Night Live, and listen, we've seen a plethora of brothers come through there, but let's be honest, nobody from Saturday Night Live, black, has done what Eddie Murphy did, had the impact that Eddie Murphy had. I always believed in my heart I was gonna be that dude. I believe I could have been that dude, just based off of, I always said to myself, what I'm doing on MADtv, if I'm doing that on SNL, forget about it, you know? But I just guess that's how the dice rolled, you know, for me.
Here's an interesting question for you that I've never asked. I don't think I've ever asked anybody this before. If you're, you know, lying in that, like, whatever, there's that soundproof booth and it's only you talking, only you can hear what you're saying, and you're asked this question, name 3 comedians out there working today that you feel are either your equal in talent or they're at a higher level than you in terms of the skill sets that they have in their toolbox.
I'll say this, and I recognize, let me give you my Mount Rushmore of comedians. And one of them's passed away, but I have to put him on there. Dave Chappelle, who I think is he's the GOAT. Patrice O'Neal, Bill Burr, and in terms of impact on stage and just a ferocious animal, Tommy Davidson. I know Dave Chappelle's above me, you know? Even though, listen, man, you read some of the comments in certain posts and stuff, yo, you right there in my top 5. Yo, you right under Dave. Yo, you and Dave. I've had people go, yo, you're better than Dave. But based on Dave's body of work, I'm lazy. That Dave he's a gym rat. Stays on stage. Motherfucker cranked out, 5 specials in a year or whatever with his Netflix deal. So Dave's the GOAT. In terms of my aggressive style, my fearlessness, I've heard people say, yo, he reminds me of Patrice, who I think if there's a race, Dave wins by a hair over Patrice. I think they're like neck and neck. And I love Bill Burr's wit and his fearlessness and his bite. Those are the guys that I look at like, whoa. Listen, man, as I'm trying to grow as a human being, listen, I'm an alpha male, I'm black, I'm from New York. I'm confident, some might say arrogant, but I can hang with anybody. There's nobody puts fear in my heart comedically except maybe Dave. But even then, you give me an hour, give him an hour, ain't nobody walking away going, that guy sucked. I'm a beast, and my crowd work is vicious. So between that and everything else I can do, as humble as I'm trying to be, I can hang with anybody, man.
But you said something that is fascinating. You said that you were something that all those people weren't. Do you remember what you said to describe yourself?
Just now?
Yeah.
Tell me.
One word that you are that those people aren't.
Tell me.
Lazy.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
But I'm not making excuses.
No, you said it. I
No,
didn't
no,
say
no,
it.
no, 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 no. I'm telling you why though.
You're telling me why you're lazy.
Yes.
Why? There's a reason. There's actually
absolutely.
There's actually a structural reason.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I can't wait.
I've been doing this 35 years. And to a degree, the passion has been beat out of me by this industry. There's a lot of days I want to quit. I'm ready to say fuck this, but I'm trying to hang in there and get my second win. Cause I believe that again, it's ultimately gonna fall on me. So this movie that I'm developing, these other things I'm trying to tie all these pieces together, I'm trying to get my second win, but for a minute, I've been really depressed. I've been really, I'm tired, man. Between the baby mother and the kids and the bills and the bullshit and the politics, tired, man. And some days I just don't want to do it anymore. Some days I don't feel it, and I don't want to force it. So yeah, I there are times when I'm coasting by on namesake or shit that I know works, to the point where sometimes I'm on stage and I get bored because I go, but then when I do crowd work, it reminds me, like, yo, you're a comic, yo. Because one, not everybody's great at this. Two, not everybody wants to do it because they can't or they're fearful. But to be able to go off the dome and be just as impactful or better than some dude's written material, yo, you're a comic. So sometimes there are things that will happen that make me go, all right, stick with it. It'll all turn around. Just stick with it. Just figure out how to pick yourself up, take a deep breath, breathe, and don't quit. And we'll figure it out.
Well, you see all the examples of the people who haven't quit and what goes down with them. It's amazing. I mean, you see like Patton Oswalt, his wife dies. Things aren't obviously going well for him personally, professionally. He's really not getting the acting roles he wants to get. And somehow he figures it out, and he's probably one of the greatest comedian actors that I'm talking greatest actors who happens to be a comedian that I've ever been around. So we talked about Harlan Williams, how you can, Harlan is constantly writing books, writing movies, doing his podcast. And, we had a conversation before last time I met you. It's like, a manager can't, don't kill me. A manager can't get you in shape. Your body, your instrument, your body is your instrument, and your mind. He can't get you in shape. You only can get yourself in shape. If you drink or do drugs, and I'm not saying you do, I'm not going to be able to help you get sober. I could maybe bring you to a meeting, but you got to go and you got to take the steps necessary to stay sober. And so everything that you want in your life and your career, I always look at it like, okay, you just got fucking hit on the head with a rock and you have amnesia. You don't know if you won the Academy Award last week or if you got blown behind a dumpster by a crack addict. Today is day one. And what are you going to do starting day one? Just like Tony Hinchcliffe did when he was handing you the fucking keys at the Comedy Store to your car. Okay? And now he's working arenas. You start day one. Bert Kreischer, who's doing a fucking podcast in his garage or whatever the hell it is, and is doing tours all over and had a movie about his story. You just have to start. You just have to start in that first day and get all the... Because, doubt is the greatest dream killer. You're talented. You have the skill set. Every comedian in the world knows what every comedian's skill set is. But the great thing is, and maybe they would disagree with me, but the Bert Kreischers and the Tony Hinchcliffes and the Jim Jeffries and the Bill Burrs, they love it privately when people say, I feel like I want to quit. Fucking great, quit. Please quit. This clears it out for everybody. The survival of the fittest. Everyone privately would want you to quit because then there's more room for them to succeed. So the thing is that you got to push through it. It's hard to push through it because I don't know what it's like to have a baby mama. I don't know what it's like to be married twice to the same woman and about to get married a third time to the same woman. I don't know what that's like. But I do know this, and I know I'm probably talking too much again, but for the audience, I think this is important. I'm sure you've heard this a million times. It's probably written on walls and caves somewhere. You created you. You're the creator. I didn't create you. Your baby mama didn't create you. Nobody created where you are. You did it. And just like you created what happened to you in the beginning, and you created that hype that worked, and the world came to you with that show for 25 episodes and MADtv for 8 years, you did it. You've already won. Jerry Maguire, one of the fucking greatest movies. It's flawless. I mean, the movie is flawless. You're in an Academy Award nominated film with Tom Cruise, and Cuba Gooding Jr. won the Academy Award. You're in scenes with him. Cameron Crowe chose you. The guy is a fucking genius. Okay, so you've already done it. You know that you've done it. So the only thing to do is to just do a biopsy of all the distractions and the doubt and set a plan together. Okay, this is what I'm going to start doing on January 1st. This is what's going to happen. This is what I see for myself. This is how I'm going to change who I am physically. This is how I'm going to change my regimen. I remember interviewing Kevin Hart. I'll never forget. He says, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't even know why. I just start running. I got to get going. I got to get moving. I got to do things. I just interviewed a guy who gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning every morning. I'm thinking to myself, Jesus Christ, I got up really early this morning. I don't get up at 4 in the morning. But they just figure out a way to change the listening, change the dynamics, change how they live their life. So you are fucking talented. You've proven it over and over again. But the thing is, you're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And what is the definition of that? I believe it's called insanity. Mm-hmm. And so, like you said, I was married to a woman, got divorced. I'm married to her again, got divorced. Whether they again, you told me before the podcast, we're trying to get together again. I don't mean I don't mean for your wife or your ex to come after me where I live and kill me. But the point is, any logical person looking down from the heavens would say, hey, you're good. You're good. There's other people that you can hang out with, that you can do things with. You can be friends, but you're good. Same with how you're doing the shows on the road. However you're doing the shows on the road, chances are you've been doing them a certain way, and you don't probably think about, okay, how can I connect with the fans more? I was just with Brad Williams in overseas in all these different European countries. We was working this really historic venue in Dublin called Vicar Street, amazing venue, like an 1,100 seat theater kind of venue. And I remember he said on stage, look, everybody, after the show, I'm going to meet everybody who wants to meet me. I don't care how much time it takes. I made a deal with the venue. I'm meeting everybody. If you want to meet me, I'm here. He stood up for 2 hours and 45 minutes, meeting everybody, shaking people's hands, taking photos. And now if he didn't do that versus doing it, which would you say is going to help him more? Well, obviously it's going to help him more to connect with the fans. That's just one little thing. In social media, how do you change things? How do you figure out how to do it to where you reach people a different way than you're reaching them? All these different things, but you have to work with your manager, whoever it is, and plan the strategy of what it is you want to do and how you want to do it, so you change the listening out there in the world, and you can. And then you start going on podcasts like, you know, whatever, this one and 1,000 other ones, and you start letting the world know little by little, this is what I'm capable of, this is what I can do, this is how I'm going to blow people away. And it just starts. I want to give one more example. I know I'm talking a lot, but somebody who you know, let's just take somebody, Adam Ray. I'll take two people, rhymes, Adam Ray, Morgan J. Okay? Two guys, a year ago, doing okay, you know, like, you know, getting some Morgan J, getting some gigs and some comedy clubs, one-nighters here and there, and doing good, has about 100,000 followers, grassroots guitar guy, doing his thing. Adam Ray, doing his stand-up, doing his thing, gets some little movie roles here or there, and doing well, doing comedy clubs, but not like fucking killing it. Had a podcast with Brad Williams, did well, but not like lighting the world on fire, right? And then, like, recently you see the guy coming out with all these different characters, from Dr. Phil to whatever, and now like 585,000 followers, and then people are having him on shows doing these characters and these things that he's not a character guy, but he just started doing them. He changed the listening. He had the courage to go to a place where he hadn't been before. What did he have to lose? Well, failure. But, you know, it worked. I just saw him do a character on Kill Tony. I forget, Jeffrey or whatever the hell it is. Fucking destroyed. I don't even know where it came from. Morgan J. I'm watching him at this concert hall using this device to change his voice when he sings and going to people in the crowd. He's got 1 million followers now in a year because he had the courage to not give up and to change and to figure out how to get to that point, because it wasn't working his way. But they knew they had the talent. They knew they had the skill set. And you have all that. So it's just a question of just taking some time, getting all the fucking distractions away, and planning your world domination. And it's proven over and over again that everybody's able to do it. Even Dane Cook, who the highest highs, if he were here today, he'd say, I've had the lowest lows. But you can feel something's happening again with him. You can feel there's something coming around again. Now, granted, no one's feeling sorry for him. He's been selling out theaters, you know, now for a long time. He just sold out the Beacon, but there's something happening. You can feel something happening because he's in the lab figuring out how I can get back where I need to go, not looking at the people that got to the level that he is. And so you have the gift, the proven gifts. There's probably at least 8 victories you've had in this business that prove that you can do it. I would say differently if I were sitting across from a guy who's never done it, then I'd say, okay, well, how do you do something? And so I think that if you can get over that thing where you turn the laziness into, okay, I've got a new regimen, turn the physical instrument into something that looks like you might be a person who's lazy to somebody that looks like, holy shit. I told you this the last time I saw you. Imagine if you went in the clubs like 6 months from now and you're in there and you're fucking ripped and you're fucking, people are going to be like, wow, have you seen Aries Spears' you guy's amazing. I mean, he just turned his whole life around. Have you seen the material that he's doing now? It's fucking incredible. I've never seen him do stuff like this. Have you seen his social media? It's like incredible what's happening with this guy. And then people start talking and it's like the same hype again. And then your manager will be like, you know, whether it be Jeff or whatever, will have that thing to rally around. But you're the one who has to stop doing the stuff that you've been doing over and over again and have the courage to start doing things that you've never done before. And once you do that, like you said in the beginning of this podcast, you said funny is funny. It just never, you can't stop funny. When you talked about Harlan Williams, you can't stop it. And so everything will happen to you if you do that.
Feels like inside the actor studio.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to get so many comments. This is what's going to happen. You know, this is what always happens. I get the comments back. Could you fucking let the guy talk?
No, listen.
That's what I'm going to get over and over again. Jesus, Barry, you're interviewing a guy. Let the guy talk.
Listen. Sometimes you need to be talked to instead of doing the talking. So you know, if it this might be my therapy. You know. I've
always loved you. I've always felt wonderful about you. Every time I see you, I feel love in my heart. You're a part of my life. I mean, when I first started, you were one of the few people who said, Barry, go f*** yourself. I'm going to California and I don't want to work with. It's like Mark Maron told me when I interviewed him, is like, he said, yeah, you brought 10 people into your office. I was one of them. He wanted to manage, and I was the one who said, f*** it, I'm not going to be managed by you. What are you, crazy?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6 degrees of separation.
6 degrees of separation. I'm going to mention some names. Tell me a story, something that you think might be interesting to people, or it could be a one word, it could be a sentence, whatever. Tiffany Haddish.
It was inevitable.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Greatest center of all time. Most dominant.
Tom Cruise.
Longevity.
Bobby Lee.
Glad he and I made amends, man. You know, for a long time, we kind of had a thing, and I wanted to do his podcast. People wanted to see me on his podcast. But long story short, we finally made amends, and it was one of the best episodes he had ever done, he said. And the numbers showed it. So that felt good.
Damon Wayans.
Thankful. Because he put me on the underground. I wish that show had done more, but that was a fun experience.
Key and Peele.
Impactful.
Snoop Dogg.
Love Snoop. Such a cool ass dude. We had him on MADtv. I've known Snoop for a while. When my daughter was trying to do her music thing, he gave her a shout out. One of the coolest cats in the game.
Denzel Washington. I remember I was with you in California, as crazy as it sounds, on Melrose Avenue. I don't know why I was with you. I was hanging out with you and somebody else, and you said, let's go and grab some lunch in Georgia. Georgia was a restaurant, this beautiful restaurant.
It was owned by Norm Nixon and several other people.
Yeah, so I go in and go to the bar, and we're just at the bar, and you turn, and it's Denzel Washington. You start talking to Denzel Washington.
Well, Denzel and Norm are like best friends. So I got a chance to run into Denzel several times when I would hang out at Norm's house, because he'd always come over with the family.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy.
Oh, God. You know, I was at the Laugh Factory one night, and there had been several times when Pookie Winnington, who would do Chocolate Sundays, would call me and be like, yo, Eddie's here. Oh, man, you missed it. Eddie was just here. So one night, me and Dean Edwards are waiting in the wings because, you know, only one of us can go up, and we try to Pookie's trying to figure out who.
Now, don't lose your place. This is important.
Mm-hmm.
You have a chance to be Dean Edwards and have 2 years on Saturday Night Live, or you have a chance to be Aries Spears and have 8 years on MADtv. What do you choose?
2 years on SNL.
Okay, go on with your story.
Eddie shows up. So I just happened to be outside smoking a cigarette when the car pulls up, and I've known Uncle Ray. I've known Uncle Ray for a minute, but then Eddie comes out, and Eddie sees me, and he goes, "Hey man, you getting chunky, man. You better stop eating." So I'm like geeking out. So Pookie comes back and he goes, "Hey y'all know Eddie's up there in the balcony." I'm like, yeah. He goes, "Look, I could only put one of y'all on, so you got to flip a coin or something." And, you know, for me, this is like, if I'm a basketball player, I get to do some shit in front of Jordan. You know, this is just fucking Jordan of comedy. So we do the coin toss. I win. I go on stage. I don't want to say I didn't freeze, but the moment was so big in my head that I kind of wasn't me. And, you know, it's funny because we all know the Eddie Murphy movie laugh. But Eddie's real laugh is, so Eddie kind of laughed a little bit here and there. But then when it was over, I called Uncle Ray and I said, "Hey man, what did Eddie think?" And he was like, Eddie was basically told him, "I think I make these little nervous because he's funnier than that. I've seen him."
Awesome.
Yeah.
Your proudest moment in show business?
I don't know that I've had it yet. I'm grateful, and I'm not oblivious to where my journey has taken me. And I'm grateful, but I don't think I've had it yet.
Your biggest disappointment in show business and how you used it to fuel yourself to the next level?
My biggest disappointment is me not knowing when to shut the fuck up. Everything doesn't need to be said. You know, Jeff had a great quote when he says to me, "You want to be rich or you want to be right?" Because very seldom can you be both. But to me, the inspiration is Dave Chappelle seems to be rich and right. I don't want to lose myself in terms of who I am and me being genuine, because I think that's part of the biggest draw to why people like me. Now, can it be a turnoff to some? Yeah, the truth does that, especially when it ain't in your favor. But, you know, I want to be rich and right. Now, to me, the only way that happens is, you know, I got to do it myself.
Before I ask the last question, why do you have to be right?
Well, when I say right, I'm talking about I just want to be genuine. I don't want to put on a facade, and I don't want to tap dance because that's what a lot of people want.
But you can be genuine and wrong, right, maybe.
Yeah, I know, but this business and you know, they want you to dance the dance and be that guy, and I can be that guy, but at the same time, I don't want to lose myself and not be who I am because I don't feel like doing jazz hands.
Look, you know, the world has a plan. Haley Welsh can just be caught on camera, just with her girlfriends, saying something that guys and girls might make jokes of all the time. Is that the hot
to a girl?
Yeah.
Oh.
You can make a joke with your friends all the time. How many jokes have you made around comedians or friends that weren't caught on a camera? But somebody catches it on film, and for some reason, no one knows why the world speaks, including Haley, whose mother is a crack addict. She lives with her grandmother. She's like everybody else. She doesn't understand why the world said, "Hey, let's rally around this girl."
For 15 minutes.
Yeah. Now, what I said to Haley was, and I think I probably won't be the first one to say to her, Kim Kardashian and Mike the Situation both had their 15 minutes. Mike lifted his shirt up and was arrogant and had the abs and everything like that, and the look. Kim Kardashian had a sex tape where you saw every part of her body, and a rapper's every part of his body doing everything. Now, if I were to sit down with you back then, and I were to say, who's more likely to have an empire? The girl with the sex tape or the guy who's the handsome guy with the abs? So the 15 minutes of fame, which is really important, which ties into everything we talk about, Yes, she has 15 minutes of fame. Yes, she's made $1.5 million so far in 3 months. And she has a choice. If she has the goods, like Kim Kardashian did, distance yourself from that, embrace it, but distance it, and prove to the world that you have more than that, or else go away like Mike the Situation. And so for anybody at every level, they have the choice of how to get to where they want to go and what they can do, and the world will speak. And the world always speaks. Do you feel strongest about somebody who, when you look at them and you talk to them, that they are like fucking motivational speaker, like energy? They're like positive energy. They're like, I'm going to seize today. Or do you want to be around people who you feel are like, today, we'll see what happens today. What happens? I'm just kind of feeling kind of like not really that motivated to do anything. Which person are you going to be more likely to follow, to get excited about, to do business with, to want to do anything with? I mean, it doesn't matter. Your computer's broken. There's 2 computer stores side by side. You got one guy who takes you, hey man, how you doing? Good to see you today. Aries, so excited. I love this fucking computer business. It's my life. I'm going to fix your computer. It's going to be amazing. And he's like, well, let me just check out this other place. And the other guy's like, fucking hate this computer. I'm so fucking tired of these people coming in with the computers. It's like, I just trying to get motivated to fix computers. What do you want? What do you want to have done with your computer? Who are you going to go to? You're going to go to the other guy. So you got to let everybody know in the business, your fans, everybody, that there's a new sheriff in town. And it's you. And you're going to change everything that way. And your life is going to change forever that way. Believe me. So I got one last question. Tell me, what advice do you have for the young comedian who's starting out to have the kind of opportunities and convert on the kind of opportunities that you know you've converted on in your life, and go in there and figure out a way to beat people that have more experience than you and have that kind of career that you've had? But also, what advice do you have for the comedian who's done it before and is in a position where they need to reinvent, reconfigure, and put together and get themselves where they want to go for the next stage of their careers?
Let me answer the second one first. I would say talk to Barry Katz. Now let me answer the first one. Keep your eyes and ears open and your mouth shut, and walk cautiously.
I like that. I like that a lot. That is the shortest, most impactful advice anybody's given in a long time.
Okay.
Aries, I love this. I hope I didn't overstep my boundaries.
Not at all. Not at all. And who knows? Maybe we will fuck one day.
Well, I look forward to walking with a limp. Thanks, buddy. I love you, buddy.
You got it, brother.